This episode is sponsored by BetterHelp. The holidays are over, the decorations are down, and suddenly everything feels a little empty. It's normal to feel the winter blues after the holiday excitement. January, February, and March are by far my least favorite months of the year. It's cold and dark, and I have to get some extra vitamin D on board. I also need to keep my regular scheduled appointments with my therapist. So if you're feeling that post-holiday funk, I definitely suggest you checking out BetterHelp because maybe it's time to talk. You might also be one of those people like me who makes New Year's resolutions and you get super motivated. So maybe you need someone behind you to hold you accountable and come up with a plan to meet your goals. BetterHelp is super convenient, totally online. You have a therapist right at your fingertips whenever you need them. So head over to betterhelp.com/wifeofcrime1 to get 10% off your first month. That's betterhelp.com/wifeofcrime1 for 10% off your first month.
Bored at home? Head over to Chumba Casino and join some serious social casino fun. With hundreds of games at your fingertips, no purchase necessary. You can play anytime, anywhere. There's a special welcome bonus waiting for you when you sign up. Play for fun, play for free, and you could even redeem some great prizes. Visit ChumbaCasino.com and get ready to reel in the fun. Sponsored by Chumba Casino. No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. 18 plus terms and conditions apply.
This podcast is an unscripted, unedited conversation about true crime. We take the cases very seriously, but I don't take myself seriously at all, and neither should you. Welcome to Wife of Crime.
So, Russ, there are a few weird cases of, is this a murder or is this suicide? And every time I come across one of these, my mind is boggled. This story is twisted and deep. And I guarantee by the end of this episode, you are going to say, this makes no sense. This is the case of Ellen Greenberg. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Wife of Crime, a true crime podcast where I tell my husband, Russ, true crime stories and he reacts to them.
What's up, folks? It's your boy Russ, a.k.a. your podcast BFF, a.k.a. I hate the cold, a.k.a. I'm moving where it's warm even if Jess ain't coming.
Oh, when are you moving?
As soon as I get on my feet.
Well, yes, it snowed today for the first time this year.
I know, bah humbug.
Yeah, you are a bah humbug for sure. Listen, I like cold weather and snow until Christmas because I did live in Florida and having a warm Christmas is weird AF. I know you Southern people and Californians have these 70-degree Christmases and it's super weird. And it totally got me out of the Christmas mood. So I like cold weather up until Christmas, but then January, February, it can get warm again. I don't care.
I'd rather have warm weather Christmases and be at the beach with my ninnies out than be in the cold freezing my ninnies off.
Well, we're back for another episode, and we have a big announcement.
We do?
We do.
Oh, yeah, it's a boy.
We announced it on Instagram. It's a boy.
And his name is Tython.
People actually thought we might be having a kid.
I can't believe people have children on purpose. That's crazy.
So his name is Tyson, a.k.a. Tython, named after, obviously, Mike Tyson.
And it's a dog.
And he's a bulldog pitty mix, we think. He's really weird looking. He has really short front legs and longer back legs. So he has a weird shaped body. But we adopted him on Sunday from a shelter. He was literally running the streets of Baltimore, chasing cars and trucks.
Yeah, so he's a little short brown dude. So that's crazy. So we named him Tyson.
Yes. And everyone knows, we have a special thing with Mike Tyson. with Spinal.
I loved Mike Tyson before, I was Spinal.
Oh, yeah. No, you've loved Mike Tyson for your whole adult life.
He's like a philosopher now.
Yeah.
And he lost to Jake Paul, which is a little annoying.
Oh, that fight was so annoying.
Some people wanted to hear my thoughts on it. I knew that Tyson was going to lose.
He did, guys. The profiler predicted this. I mean, he was telling me literally for like the 5 days before the fight, this is all a setup. Mike's going to get 20 million, so Jake Paul will win. And I kept denying it as usual. Like whenever Russ tells me anything that he thinks, I usually am like, no, that's not true. No. And I denied it because I really wanted to see Mike Tyson do a knock out Jake Paul. Also because Jake Paul is so freaking annoying.
That was the most girlish way to say you wanted someone to get knocked out. You wanted Mike Tyson to do a knockout. Like, do you want me to hit a field goal or throw a home run? So
I love how he said the most girlish way.
Yeah, it's definitely the most girlish way. And then, not because I didn't want Mike Tyson to not win, but Jake Paul winning is good for business because now he goes on to fight again and fight for more money, and it builds up the whole
sport again.
I don't know, balding YouTuber that's doing stuff. Like, why don't he just go to Turkey? Like, I knew someone that got their hair put back in their head for $4,000 and the flight's included, or just shave it off, or just go get some new hair.
It's so true. Like, honestly, PSA, public service announcement to all the dudes out there losing your hair. You can go to Turkey for like $5,000 and get that shit done. And they're like experts. They do the best job.
And you see when the people coming back on the plane, there's a whole plane full of guys with like a head wrap on. But some people look good bald.
Yeah, some people do look good bald.
Yeah, I know some dudes that look good bald, but I ain't going to say it because I don't be complimenting men's looks very often.
Well, I know that some of our listeners thought you were bald.
Well.
And according to our new, one of our new reviews, they also thought you were fat. So someone thought you were bald and fat.
Well, you know what it probably is? They're not used to people this handsome being this funny. Like, normally people develop good personalities because, like, they look like they smell or something. But, I'm just regular and, I'm from New York, so I stay fly.
Oh, okay. So we have Tyson now. So you'll hear us talking about Tyson.
But we also have the Queen Lucy still.
Yes, she's the queen of this house.
And we don't speak about her as much because she's just like a perfect dog. Yeah. Besides, like, a few little things, and she doesn't really do anything funny. She's just like a grown woman who hangs out.
Yeah, she is.
You say, Lucy, get down. She looks at you like, all right.
She literally speaks English.
She knows every word we say.
She knows English. She knows when we're about to record the podcast. She sees us put the mics out, and she knows exactly where to go. She
walks
down.
in the room.
Yeah.
Because she knows we put the dogs in the room when we pull out the microphones, and she just goes on her own.
Yeah. She's so perfect. And, we have our shrine to our biggie boy right in front of us. So we have all of our little dog folks.
And our listener that sent us the Biggie painting, which is like one of my most prized possessions, I would say. That Biggie
I
painting.
agree. Yeah. That was so incredibly nice. We have the best listeners.
I need to say like, who that is.
We have like thousands of best friends. It's so cool.
Yeah, as long as they don't want to see me in person.
Thousands of internet best friends that don't ever want to meet Russ in person because they would realize how quiet and awkward he actually is.
First of all, I'm not that quiet or awkward. I know how to act. The listener that sent us the painting is Colleen, and she's an artist. So thank you so much. And if you guys want to see like where she put her paintings, she does paint. She loves doing like pet portraits. And I don't know, maybe she would do yours for you if like you paid her, so go pay her.
Yeah, go pay her.
If she would, maybe not. Maybe she just does it for, like, fun. But check her out on Instagram. It's the letter C, Gregory Art 14. So go check her out because she sent us this painting she painted for us, and it, like, touched my heart.
It touched my heart, too. It literally captures his personality in the painting. It looks exactly like him.
Yeah, my heart is almost untouchable. So.
Aww. Well, this month on the Patreon, we are going to watch, for True Crime and Chill, we're going to watch the documentary. It's been highly requested for us to watch. It's called Jailbreak: Love on the Run. And so many patrons have asked us to watch it because everyone just loves hearing your opinions. Sometimes I feel left out because people don't want to hear my opinions. They really want to hear your opinions on this one.
They want to hear my opinions, and they want you to police me. That's you're like my fun police when I'm having too much fun. You're like, are you really going to drink that many beers? I'm like, can you grab me 2 beers or like 4 beers? She's like, you don't need 4.
No, I don't.
And then I'm like,
you make me sound so bad. I do not.
You never do that.
Sometimes, but I don't do it all the time.
So I'm like, if you tell me not to do something, now I feel challenged to do it at an extremely high level that has never been done before.
Yeah, so if I say, are you really going to drink 4 beers? He'll want to drink 10 beers. That's just how he is. He's naturally rebellious.
But if she told me, you need to drink like 6 beers to be funny, I'd be like, I ain't drinking nothing.
Yeah,
I'm funny sober.
You're like, I'm drinking water.
Yeah.
So we're going to watch Jailbreak: Love on the Run. Everyone's really excited for us to watch it. And it looks really interesting. I know it's about like a CO who fell in love with an inmate and then helped him escape. So that's really, it was a case from like 2 years ago. It wasn't that long ago, I think, that this case happened. So it's also just 1 episode, which you'll love.
You know, maybe there is a God.
Because we just did the Zodiac Killer, and that one was 3 episodes, which is a lot for you. All right, let's do your jobs because the case that I have is crazy.
All right, guys. So we have a Patreon where we have a lot of episodes. I never went and counted, but I'd guess more than 50, maybe 100. Who knows? We have between like 1 and 1 million episodes over there. I don't know how many, but it's more than a little bit.
Yeah.
So these are the people that joined this week. Thank you guys very much. We have Susan, Kristen, Joanna, Fun Me, Luz, Chelsea, Tanisha, Jess Demes. I guess that's after my Jess. Rebecca, Dominique, Courtney, Lisette, Lacey, Suzette, and about 3 Kims, Latoya, and Tina.
Oh.
Get at me, dog. Cheers to you guys.
Cheers, guys. And he brought the DMX back. I think you said Luz, and it's supposed to be Luz. Luz.
Spell it how you want.
I think it's a Spanish name. Luz, Luz.
All right, so this week I'm doing review of the week. I almost didn't read this one because it's long AF.
Mm-hmm.
And because it's long, a woman probably wrote it. And I almost didn't read it because the person told me what to do, which probably confirms it's a woman.
Yes, and he hates being told what to do. Trust me, I've been married to him a long time. He hates being told what to do.
So this one's from Kiki. Sounds like a girl that DMX would date. It says, 5 stars. I'd like to join the Moldology cult. So you know, at least this is someone that will give us all their money and go to work while I stay home.
Okay.
So this one says, new listener here. I made the effort of downloading Apple Podcasts since I'm a Spotify listener, so Russ better read me. Anyways, I'm an avid crime podcast listener, and I've been binging Wife of Crime since I found it 2 weeks ago. At first, I didn't want to cheat on my original crime podcast couple, but you two are hilarious. I also live in New York City and feel like the crackheads think I'm one of them, just laughing at myself walking alone in the streets. At first, I thought Russ was fat. He gave funny fat guy energy, so I had to look you guys up. Jess looks like her voice. Russ was a little bit of a shock, but I guess I got used to it because he is the most handsome man I ever seen in my entire life.
She didn't say that.
All right,
added that in.
I added that last sentence. Anyways, you guys are great. Chef's kiss with Jess. Relatable energy as a girlfriend and wife. And Russ not being able to shut up in the right times. New favorite crime podcast couple. Hashtag vote for Jess. Hashtag Jess deserves a vote too.
Thank you. Oh, I love that.
So shout out to you, Kiki. You're a
She
little
thought
bossy.
you were fat.
You better stop telling people what to do and stop judging people by their voice.
Yeah.
But not really. Keep judging people. I do it all the time.
Yeah,
It's
Russ
kinda
judges
fun.
everybody. Russ is the most judgmental. and petty.
I knew a person named Kiki, R.I.P.
Aw.
He was the crackhead on the block that used to go to the store for us and would also wash your car for money. Like, so.
Oh, really?
But we weren't taking advantage. Like,
You paid him.
Yeah, he washed your car for $20 at the pump.
Oh.
But he would also go to the store and then, you give him a couple bucks. But R.I.P. Kiki.
Oh, R.I.P. Well, thank you, Kiki, for your review and for my vote. I appreciate it.
Someone got mad at me the other day for calling someone a crackhead. But
that person smoked a cigarette in the handicapped bathroom and told Russ to go to the regular men's room. So they deserve to be called that.
But you also didn't grow up with crackheads stealing and selling your toys as a child. So you might not necessarily have lived the life.
Ooh.
So if you don't want to be called a crackhead, don't smoke crack. It's that easy. No one ever called me a crackhead. You know why?
Why?
I never smoked crack.
It's true.
Yeah. So crackheads, get your hustle on. You make more money by going to hustle like Kiki and doing stuff.
Doing jobs for people, yeah.
Yeah, I got more funny things like, how about the lady that was mad at me because I didn't know about some settlement? What was that again?
I don't know.
Remember she said, oh, he's dumb. He didn't know some history or some shit.
Oh, you didn't know that the Philippines were colonized by the Spanish.
First of all...
Yeah, she said you were dumb. One star review.
First of all, if that makes you think I'm dumb, there has been way dumber stuff. Like, for instance, I thought Roe v. Wade... I thought Roe v. was the person's name. I didn't know it was Roe versus Wade. And people thought I was dumb for that. So it gets dumber. And there are way more dumber things that go on there. So if that's the worst take, that you don't think that I know history of the Philippines.
Yeah, you got to listen to more.
Stick around, folks.
You got to listen to more episodes.
There's way more. I'll probably say dumber stuff because me not knowing who settled certain lands. You're giving me way too much credit, homie.
I still laugh sometimes to myself about Roe v. Wade. Roe v. Like, I was just shocked that you didn't know that.
Well, I don't politic much. Even though
I don't think you got to politic much to know that.
Even though I am, hashtag vote for Russ.
But, people felt seen because there were some people like you who thought Roe v. was the first name too. People identify with you. Some people identify with me. Some people think they're smarter than us and want to give us 1-star reviews.
But these people think I'm dumb because I don't know who settled the Philippines. First of all, I've never been to the Philippines, but I know you guys love Manny Pacquiao. But I bet I know more sports than you. So I think you're dumb.
Yeah, you do know a lot of sports trivia.
Like, I know what's interesting to me. I know about animals.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know? I know a lot about animals. I know a lot about sports. I know a lot about video games.
Uh-huh.
I know a lot about puppies.
You know a lot about money. You're actually really good with money.
I know about investing.
You know about investing. Yeah.
I know what the ladies like. And that's me.
You know a lot about style.
I'm swaggy.
You are swaggy.
They call me Swaggy Russ, a.k.a. Swaggerific. And I'll shut up now.
All right. Well, Russ, I have been deep diving this case that I'm about to tell you. So there are a lot of cases in true crime that get like a lot of attention and get covered by a lot of podcasts, and they're on TV, and they're like these high profile cases like Scott Peterson and Lacey Peterson, like Aisha Degree that I told you about maybe a month or two ago.
I still want to know updates on this. Has there been any?
There aren't any updates on the Aisha Degree case yet.
That's one of the few that I like. Like, some stick in my mind more than others, but this one's still like, there was new breaking evidence.
Yes. There are a lot of cases like that get covered over and over again. And the case that I'm going to tell you today is one of those cases, but it's one of those cases because it's so incredibly deep and crazy. And some of the details are unfathomable. So, of course, I went down multiple rabbit holes. I listened to a 5-part podcast series. I listened to a 15-part YouTube series. I read multiple sources online. I read multiple court documents. I went down this whole thing. Got on Reddit. It was nuts. And I've come to a conclusion. So my plan today is that I'm going to tell you the whole case, okay? I'm going to tell you all the details of, like, the overview, the summary of the case. And then we're going to go back to the beginning. And we're going to talk through these different parts of the case that make no sense, that have been debated about.
So we're going to go back to the future. Do I got to wear a vest?
No, we're not going back
vest?
to the future. We're going back to the beginning.
Well, whenever we really go back in time, I always just think back to the future.
Yeah. We're going to go back to the beginning, and I'm going to tell you we're going to talk through all the details because there's a lot to talk through.
Okay.
Are you ready?
Yeah, boy.
So this is the case of Ellen Greenberg. This case is so nuts because it's one of those rare cases of, is it a murder or a suicide? Ellen Greenberg was a young, energetic teacher with a passion for education and a bright future ahead of her. She was a first grade teacher at Juniata Park Academy in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Her students adored her. According to multiple staff members at the school, Ellen was meant for this.
And she looked very young as for a school teacher back,
Oh, you're looking at her pictures?
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't want you to think I'm texting.
That's
but
good.
I like to get a visual of the person. So everyone else look up Ellen Greenberg.
She was a very pretty girl, and her students completely adored her. In 2007, Ellen met her fiancé, Sam Goldberg, through a mutual friend, and they ended up going on a blind date.
They're both Bergs.
Yes, so Greenberg and Goldberg. They're also both Jewish, hence the Bergs.
Goldberg and Greenberg. It sounds like a law firm.
Yeah, it does. Ellen met Sam. They went on a blind date, and they really hit it off immediately. In the summer of 2010, after about 3 years of dating, Sam proposed to her on the beach during a trip to California. Ellen and Sam moved to an apartment on the 6th floor in a nice complex called the Venice Loft Apartments in Philadelphia. They were in the middle of the wedding planning process, and according to everyone that knew the couple, they had a really loving and happy relationship, it seemed like, on the outside. So December of 2010, Ellen's parents and friends began to notice a significant change in her behavior. Ellen, who had always been really cheerful and composed, became increasingly more anxious and stressed. When they asked her about this, Ellen just kind of said that her anxiety got a little worse when it came to work. So at work, she was not only a first grade teacher, but she was on the school board as well. And she made a lot of decisions for the school. So she was actually doing a lot more.
She's very involved.
Yeah, she was doing a lot more in her school than just teaching first grade and going home.
Not like us at work.
Exactly. She was doing a lot more at work. Yeah.
I would never do 1 minute of voluntary overtime.
Definitely. So she also said, work was giving her a lot of pressure, and the stress of planning her wedding, which was coming up in August, was giving her a lot of pressure. So she was just feeling a lot of anxiety. And it ended up reaching a point where she even told her parents that she thought about quitting her job and moving back home with them in New York City, which seemed really odd to them. She was in Philly, her parents were in New York, and she didn't say anything about leaving Sam, but she also didn't say that she wanted him to move with her. So
Did she live with Sam?
Yes, they moved. I told you they moved together to this apartment building. Venice
Oh, that's
Loft
right.
Apartments.
This on the 6th floor.
Yes. As Ellen's anxiety continued to escalate, it also began affecting her sleep, and she was staying up all night and having insomnia. Her dad said that she seemed very insecure and unsure of herself. Anytime her parents tried to make plans with her, she would always say, "Oh, I have to check with Sam first. Let me see what Sam wants to do." And this was weird to them Ellen wasn't always like this. She was born and raised in New York City, and she was a very strong and independent girl. So constantly deferring to Sam and what he wanted also seemed really weird to them.
That's not that weird, because a lot of people do that, just like, oh, let me see what's going on, and I'll be like, oh, let me check just the schedule. And sometimes if you don't really want to do something, you kind of just blame it on your spouse. We all do that.
That's true. We do. She assured them that her relationship was fine and that she was just anxious and stressed about work. So her parents told her on numerous occasions maybe she should talk to someone and seek some therapy. And she did. She finally sought some therapy and ended up being put on some medication to manage her anxiety. Originally, her psychiatrist gave her Zoloft, which it didn't really work for her. And I don't think she gave it a long enough chance to kick in, but within a few days, I think within the week of starting Zoloft, she went back to her psychiatrist and said, hey, like, I'm still having so much anxiety and so much insomnia. I can't sleep at all. So, like, this isn't working. I need something else. So that just shows that she was pretty distressed by her anxiety. Then her psychiatrist gave her Klonopin and Ambien.
All these words sound very familiar to me as far as like
meds, because you probably heard of them.
I hear of them, but I don't know. I don't even know what meds I take nowadays, folks.
Klonopin is an anti-anxiety medication, and Ambien is a sleep medication.
Didn't you take Ambien once and stay awake, and then you was bugging?
I was tripping, yeah. So that can happen. Some people can take Ambien, and if you don't end up falling asleep on it, you can hallucinate or trip a little bit. And that happened to me a few years ago.
Sounds like fun. What did you see?
I saw the Christmas tree breathing. I had like trails. Like when I would put my hand in front of my face, my hand had trails, and I don't know. I saw all kinds of colors.
That's like when I was hallucinating at the hospital and I was seeing like the laser light shows.
Yeah.
That was the first time that ever happened to me. So it was kind of fun, but I got a little nauseous.
So this combination actually really helped her, and she got a lot of relief, and she was so happy. She even called her mom and told her, like, I started these medications and, like, thank God, because I'm feeling a lot better. So on the 22nd of January, 2011, Ellen sent out her save the date cards for her wedding, and they were set to get married in August. That day, she was also helping one of her close friends with an upcoming wedding that her friend was, the bride in, and she went bridesmaid shopping with her. While they were bridesmaid shopping, Ellen started crying by herself in the dressing room, and her friend came up to the dressing room and was like, hey, are you okay? What's going on? And Ellen just said, I'm so sorry. I know I'm not myself lately, but I'll get it together. I promise. But she didn't elaborate on it any further. So no one really knew what was going on with her. They knew kind of the little snippets she would say. They knew that she just started taking this anxiety medication and sleep medication, but no one knew what was actually happening.
Were there side effects to these medicines that could cause her to act like this?
So later, when we go back to the beginning and talk through each point, I'm going to talk in detail about these medications.
I'm skipping to the future like Marty McFly.
You are. So let's just slow your roll.
All right, Doc.
On January 26th, 2011, the city was covered in snow from one of the numerous winter storms that hit the Northeast that year. Sam had the day off work because of the snowstorm, and Ellen ended up having a half day because, they called the school half day when the snow starts to get too bad so all the kids can get home. In the early afternoon, Sam decided to go work out at the apartment complex gym. So they lived on the 6th floor. The apartment complex gym was on the lower floor. I think it was on the 1st floor.
Yeah.
And surveillance cameras showed him entering the gym around 4:50, staying for about a half hour, and then they see him getting out of the gym, walking back into the elevator. When he got home after this workout, he found that the apartment's front door was locked from the inside.
Okay.
With a swing bar latch lock. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, like when you go to a hotel.
Exactly.
So, like, if someone has a key card, they can't get in. There's always, like, a swing latch thing.
Yeah. So after several attempts to contact Ellen through knocking, calling her, and then multiple texts,
I got to kick it.
He became increasingly frantic. These are the texts that he sent to her. Hello. Open the door. What are you doing? I'm getting pissed. Hello. You better have an excuse. What the fuck? You have no idea. Ugh. Okay.
See, what happens in a situation like that is you go from rage in the beginning, like, oh, and then you start to get worried because you figure like you're just dealing with an inconvenience. And then after like 5 minutes, you're like, oh my God, I wonder if they're okay.
Well, we're going to talk about those texts later too, and you bring up a very good point, but we will get back to that as well.
Okay.
He went down to the lobby and he spoke to the security guard, asking if he has some type of master key or a tool that he could get in the apartment. And the security guard said no. And he also said even if he did have a tool, he's not breaking into somebody's random apartment because that looks bad for him. He can't be just breaking in. He doesn't know if you actually live there. Like, you don't have your ID on you. How do I know that you really live there?
Oh.
He doesn't want to, chance it. But he tells Sam, if you want to break in your door, that's fine. If you damage it, you just might have to pay for it.
Yeah, just kick it.
So the security guard also noticed.
What, he skip leg day?
So the security guard also noticed that when Sam came down.
I skip leg day.
Stop. When Sam came down to talk to him, he was wearing Timberlands. And the security guard found that really weird because Sam had just talked about how he went and had a workout.
Well, being from New York makes me an expert on Timberlands. And being from New York, I've seen people hoop in Timberlands.
Mm-hmm.
I've seen people in the gym in Timberlands. I've seen people run in Timberlands. I've seen people go dress up in a suit in Timberlands. So in New York, Timberlands are very versatile.
They are. And I will tell you, though, this is what the security guard told the police in one of the interviews that he did. However, when you watch the security footage of him going in and out of the gym, he didn't work out in his Timbs. Okay? You don't actually see him in security footage that's been released that I know of wearing the Timbs. It's just something that the security guard told somebody when he was being interviewed. So, he talks to the guy. The guy's like, you can break in the door. Just know that you might be charged for it or whatever. So eventually, he forced his way in, breaking through the latch and entering the apartment. What he found inside was a scene out of a nightmare. I'm going to play you the 911 call of Sam after he found his fiancée, Ellen.
Help! I need now. I just walked into my apartment. My fiance's on the floor with blood everywhere.
What is the address?
4601 Flat Rock Road. Please come help
4601
Flat Rock Road.
Is it the house or apartment?
Oh no! Oh no!
Apartment.
It's an apartment.
What apartment number?
Please hurry,
Where
please.
is she bleeding from?
I don't know. I can't tell.
No. So you have to calm yourself down in order to get you some help.
I'm sorry. I don't know. I'm looking at her right now. I can't see anything. There's nothing broken. She's bleeding. Ellie!
You don't know where she's bleeding from? Can't
Ellie!
blood coming from?
I think her head. I think she hit her head, But it's everywhere.
Okay,
it's everywhere.
Think she might have fallen? Do you know what happened?
She may have slipped. There's blood on the table. Her face is a little purple.
Okay, hold on for rescue for her. Stay on the phone.
But 4601 Flat Rock Road. Please hurry.
4601 Flat Rock?
Yes.
What's wrong?
I went downstairs to go work out. I came back up. The door was latched. My fiance's inside. She wasn't answering. So after about a half hour, I decided to break it down. I see her now just on the floor with blood. She's not responding.
Okay, is she breathing? Look at her chest. I need you to calm down, and I need you to look at her chest. I
really don't think she is.
Listen to me. Someone's on the way. Look at her chest. Is she flat on her back?
She's on her back. So
okay, look at her chest and tell me if it's going up and down, up and down.
I don't see her moving.
Okay, do you know how to do CPR?
I don't.
Okay, I can tell you what to do, okay, until they get there. I want you to keep her foot
Oh,
on her.
God.
Hello?
Yeah, hi, okay.
Are you willing to do CPR with me over the phone so they can...
I have to, right?
Okay, so get her flat on her back, bare her chest, okay? You want to rip her shirt off. Okay? Kneel down by her side.
Oh, my God. Ellie, please.
Listen, you can't freak out, sir, because you
Okay, I'm trying not to. Her shirt won't come off. It's a zipper. Oh, my God. She stabbed herself.
Where?
She fell with a knife. Oh, no, her knife's sticking out.
What?
There's a knife sticking out of her heart.
Oh, she stabbed herself?
I guess so. I don't know where she fell on it. I don't know.
Okay, well, don't touch it.
Okay, so I just let her down. Here now? I mean, what do I do?
No, I mean, you can't. If the knife is at her chest, it's going to be kind of hard for you to do CPR at this time.
Oh, no. Oh, my goodness. Okay.
Police, which operator? 277.
Is someone coming here?
Yes, they are. You said 4601 Flat Rock, right?
Yes.
Okay, someone's on the way. And the knife is still inside?
Wait, so what?
The knife is still inside of her?
Yes, I didn't take it out.
Was it her chest or what area?
It's in her chest. It looks like it's right in her heart.
Okay, someone's on the way out there. Okay, just get.
Oh my God! Oh my God!
How old is she?
She's 27.
27, and there's no sign of life at all. Like,
no, please don't be. What?
Pinch her under her arm and tell me if she responds to pain.
Ellie. She's not. Her arm and her hands are still warm. I don't know what that means, but there's blood everywhere. I mean.
I know, but you can't, and the knife is still inside of her. How far? Can you see how far it went in?
It looks pretty deep.
Okay.
It looks like it's a long knife.
Don't touch anything. Yeah, don't touch anything, okay?
I'm not touching anything. I can't believe this, though.
So wait, it was just you there with her?
We're the only ones here.
And she ran in the door, you said latched it shut?
No, I went downstairs to work out, and when I came back up, the door was latched. Like, it was, it wasn't like it was, it was like locked from the inside, and I'm yelling, and so I'm
was
yelling.
Your house broken into?
No.
So there's no sign of a break-in?
No sign of a break-in at all. I mean, there will be when you get here, because I had to break the latch, but to get in.
Okay, 4601 Flat Rock, and this is a house, right?
It's an apartment. Flat Rock apartment.
Okay, that helps.
Oh my God. All right, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so that was the 911 call. I want to hear, before we talk through the 911 call later, I just want to hear your initial reactions of what you thought, and then we'll move on to the rest of the case.
So I have multiple feelings on this, but I hate to say how someone should have acted and how they should have acted emotionally, because everyone acts different.
I agree with you on that.
But, if you're looking at like, oh, he seemed like lighthearted or whatever, but I've dealt with death in my life and I've never cried immediately.
Mm-hmm.
And I never killed any of the people. Like, they're people I loved, but I kind of freeze up and I'm always like in shock and it doesn't seem real at first.
Yeah.
So I hate, oh, he doesn't seem like this. He doesn't seem like this. Or how about if someone said, oh my God, he's acting like he cares too much, or so it's really hard to say.
Well, we're going to talk through the 911 call a little bit later. Because I have some feelings and thoughts about it as well. But I do agree with you. We always have said multiple times in multiple episodes, you can't judge someone based on a 911 call. It's a very iffy thing to do, and it's unfair.
But what if someone's acting extra distraught? Will we say they're laying it on thick and faking it?
Yeah.
So there's someone always has something to say. None of us were there.
There's a balance there, but we'll talk about that in a little bit. So let me explain to you the scene that he walked into, because this is where shit gets crazy, okay? Ellen was lying on the kitchen floor unresponsive, with a knife protruding from her chest, like he said. She wasn't lying on her back. The way it kind of sounded in the 911 call is that she was lying on her back, but she wasn't. I can show you a picture of the layout of the apartment in the kitchen. It was an L-shaped kitchen. She was in the corner of the cabinets, up against the cabinets, leaning against them on the floor, like in the corner. Okay. Ellen had 20 stab wounds
Oh, shit.
to her chest, stomach, front of her neck, as well as the back of her neck and her head. She was cutting fruit at the time because there were 2 knives on the counter, fruit and a cutting board. When police got to the scene, they noticed that the apartment was clean. There was no signs of a break-in or valuables missing. The apartment didn't look to be disheveled at all. And the only thing they noticed was that the door latch was slightly broken. Okay, it wasn't, I can show you a picture of the door latch where he busted in. It sounds like he busted the latch, how he explained it.
They just kick it off.
No, it's literally 2 of the little screws are a little loose. It barely looks damaged. Medics arrived and determined that Ellen was definitely gone. Her body was picked up by the medical examiner's office, but no medical examiner or anyone from the office came at that point to do an investigation or look at her body at the scene. The assistant medical examiner at the time, Dr. Marlon Osborne, noted other injuries, including more stab wounds to the chest, as well as bruises in various stages of resolution on the right side of Ellen's body.
What year did this happen?
2011.
So I was trying to figure out the resolution of cameras back then.
No. Bruises in various stages of resolution, meaning bruises that were in various stages of healing.
Oh, because when you say resolution, I'm thinking of megapixels and shit.
Okay. No. Not bruises in various stages of healing.
Why you say resolution? That's like seeing how many megapixels you have.
Because I'm talking about resolving the bruises in various stages of the bruises resolving. Something being resolved.
Oh, like a New Year's resolution.
I'll just rephrase it. In various stages of healing. So she had multiple bruises on the right side of her body in various stages of healing. It means that she has bruises that have happened different times. Bruises didn't just happen all at once.
Now I get it.
They were in various stages of healing, which means that some of the bruises had been there longer than other bruises, but there were multiple of them.
Oh, shit. So that's crazy. But how long?
They could have happened last week. Another one could have happened a couple days ago. Another one could have happened that day. They were in various stages of healing. That's the point. Where did those bruises come from? That's the question. But that was noted in the medical examiner's report. Just one day after her death, this was ruled a homicide by Dr. Osborne. Right? Makes sense. 20 stab wounds, right?
I don't think anyone has ever killed themselves by stabbing themselves that many times. I don't know if we're physically capable of doing that.
But investigators told reporters the next day that they were leaning towards suicide. Yes, suicide. The reason? Because Ellen had been on anti-anxiety medication. A decision that stunned her family and friends, okay? So in the Jewish religion, they like to bury the body very quickly, okay? When someone passes away, they have a funeral pretty fast. And they want to bury the person quickly.
They don't embalm the body or nothing? They just bury it?
I don't know the details, babe, but I just know that they want to get the funeral and the burial done fast. So at the funeral, it was ruled a homicide. And the parents made the announcement at the funeral that this was ruled a homicide. And later that day, her father, Josh Greenberg, went up to Sam and said, "You're the prime suspect because
Obviously.
This was a homicide and you're the only one with my daughter at the time." But the medical examiner, Dr. Osborne, years later, actually, in a deposition, testified that he changed the ruling to suicide after he had a meeting with the Philadelphia Police Department, the medical examiner's office, his boss, with the district attorney's office. So there was a meeting that occurred within that few days, literally within the first week of her death, there was a meeting that occurred, and they convinced him to change the manner of death to suicide. So the decision stunned the family and friends. This was based on lack of defensive wounds. So apparently her body had no defensive wounds, okay? And the belief that Ellen had been suffering from severe anxiety, which was noticed in her medical history. So they, everybody kind of knew, the investigators figured out she was having this issue with anxiety. And the shift in the case sparked outrage and disbelief among those who knew Ellen best, because her family and friends were like, what are you talking about? Well, Ellen's parents, Josh and Sandy Greenberg, were devastated and unconvinced by this suicide ruling. They had the funeral, and then after the funeral, they got to work. And they were like, you know what? We need to figure this out. This is our daughter, and we are not satisfied with this. We need to understand why they came to this conclusion.
Hell yeah.
So they hired their own experts to review all of the evidence. They hired forensic pathologists, and they raised serious doubts about the fact that Ellen could even inflict these type of injuries on herself, especially the wounds to the back of her neck. They also questioned the absence of hesitation marks, because classically, when someone goes to commit suicide by stabbing themselves, there are sometimes hesitation marks, because it's like you almost chicken out because it's a pretty rough way to go. And there were no hesitation marks.
That's like some scary movie shit where someone like gets possessed and they could like stab themselves, because, we have a hard time inflicting any pain on ourselves.
Well, the Greenbergs have embarked on a relentless quest to have the case reopened and reinvestigated. They've filed multiple lawsuits and petitions. They've also got a lot of public support. They have 160,000 people that signed a petition on change.org calling for the re-examination of Ellen's death. So now we're going to talk through all the details. And the first thing I want to talk about are the medications that she was on. Last year, Save More Money was the most popular New Year's resolution in America. Clearly, a lot of us feel like our money is slipping through our fingers. Well, I don't know about you, but I'm not the best saver, and I don't know much about investing until I started saving and investing with Acorns. Turns out you don't have to be an expert at all, because Acorns will recommend a diversified portfolio that fits you and your money goals. And I always thought that when people say, ooh, I invest in stocks, that they had a ton of money or something. Well, you don't need to be rich. Acorns lets you invest with the spare money you've got right now. You can literally start with $5. And you guys are spending that at Starbucks on these fancy lattes. So skip the coffee and invest with Acorns. You don't even need a ton of time. Like, you can just sign up and start investing within 5 minutes. Head over to acorns.com/wifeofcrime or download the Acorns app to start saving and investing for your future today. That's acorns.com/wifeofcrime. You guys already know, because we have been talking about them for a while now. Via Hemp is by far one of our favorite sponsors we've ever had, okay? We use their products all the time. Maybe you're a little like me. You're a little anxious. You have a hard time settling down. You're kind of wound up a lot. If that's you, Via Hemp products are for you. Check out their website. You will find something that speaks to you. Maybe you're like Russ. You have a hard time sleeping because you have bad nerve pain or chronic pain. Then Via Hemp is for you, because their gummies will help you get some quality sleep. Maybe you're looking to have a really good time. Maybe you just really like edibles. You want to laugh. You want to get the munchies. You want to watch a movie and have a really strong belly laugh. Then Via Hemp products are for you, okay? They're literally for everybody. So head over to viahemp.com, promo code wifeofcrime1 to get 15% off your first order. That's VIIAHEMP.com. Wife of Crime #1 for 15% off your first order. Okay, let's start with her level of anxiety. She was definitely feeling pretty anxious to be put on Ambien and Klonopin. Those are not weak drugs. Klonopin is pretty well known to be a pretty strong anti-anxiety medication. It's similar to like Ativan, if you've ever heard of Ativan, or Xanax. They're all benzodiazepines, which is a class of medication that is highly addictive, number one, but she wasn't on it long enough to be addicted to it. And so it's often abused by people.
Don't people take those, when you say abuse, that means people take it for fun?
Yeah, they take it for fun. Yeah, like you take it and
I'm not saying it's fun, folks.
You like the way you feel.
Don't do drugs. Being a drug addict is corny. But, prescribed by a doctor, take it how you're supposed to.
So one of the justifications used to classify this case as a suicide is the fact that Ellen had been increasingly more anxious since she was put on these medications. And Klonopin and Ambien both do have a side effect of suicide ideation.
That's crazy. If you're depressed, you give me a drug that's going to make me kill myself?
Well, I'm going to tell you about these drugs. So Klonopin is a brand name for the medication clonazepam, and it's used to treat seizures, panic disorders like agoraphobia, and panic attacks and generalized anxiety.
What's agoraphobia?
Agoraphobia is when you have a fear of going outside of your house and being in public.
Oh, I just don't like going out that much.
Yeah, but it's an actual fear. So it's in the benzodiazepine family, like I said, that drug class, and it affects the central nervous system. It's like a central nervous system depressant. So what that means is that we have these millions of neurons in our body that send messages from our brain to the rest of our body. And there are chemicals that either excite the neurons or chemicals that kind of like calm them down. So this class of drugs work on the chemicals that calm the brain down by making that one more available, by like making that one work better. And so that's why it helps with seizures and panic attacks, because it helps to keep you calm.
That's good.
Most of the time, the side effects are obviously drowsiness, muscle relaxation, dizziness. In rare cases, it can be suicidal ideation. So it makes sense that they would look at this drug and think, oh, maybe she had suicidal thoughts.
That's crazy how a drug can make you think about suicide.
It can, yeah, but it is rare. And her psychiatrist did testify, or was in a deposition, said that she didn't express any signs or talk about feeling suicidal. She actually said she felt a lot better on this medication, and she told her mom that she felt a lot better on the medication. So Ambien, aka Zolpidem, is a class of medication used to treat insomnia, and it works on the same chemical. So they kind of work on the same thing, but this one specifically targets the ones that promote sleep. And it's possible that the combination with Ambien and Klonopin could have given her suicidal thoughts.
I need some Ambien if it makes you sleep. I sleep like shit.
Yeah, it does help with sleep. But I read a few NIH studies on people with suicidal thoughts from both of these drugs. So it can definitely happen. Okay, I don't want to take that away from this. It can definitely happen. But to use this as the main reason that this crazy killing was a suicide is kind of nuts to me.
Yeah, like, did the husband say she was a cutter who used to hurt herself and cut herself or anything like that?
She definitely wasn't. Yeah. And
what is that called when people hurt themselves? Is it a cutter?
Yeah, I mean, it's self-mutilation or self-cutting. Yeah. And she didn't have a history of that. And there was no evidence on her body that she did that. There were those bruises, but people who cut have scars a lot of times on their body. You can see where they've done it. And so I feel like using this to justify that was very misleading.
Because I never even knew about cutters if I didn't watch movies. You don't hear about these things much.
Yeah.
Unless you're watching TV or if someone's in your life.
That does it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So now we're going to talk about the injuries, because I feel like the injuries are a huge part of this case that like really makes it improbable that someone could physically harm themselves in this way.
Well, without the injuries, there'd be no case.
I'm talking about the fact they would label it a suicide.
But yeah, like that there were like 20 stab wounds or something like that, you said.
Mm-hmm.
And that seems really hard for someone to self-inflict.
So Ellen was found stabbed to death 20 times on the floor of the kitchen. There was a 10-inch knife discovered in her chest, and that was deemed the weapon, whether it was the weapon used from a suicide or a murder weapon, but it's a 10-inch knife. the autopsy was performed at 9 a.m. the next morning. And like I said, the medical examiner did not see the body at the scene. Okay, that's very important. A lot of times with a homicide, the medical examiner who's going to perform the autopsy, either themselves, most of the time themselves, go to the scene of the crime. Because you have to remember, when they are investigating a manner of death and they're trying to determine how did this person die, they also look at everything around. They look at the blood on the ground. They look at where the blood is. They just look at the entire scene as a whole.
Like a blood spatter analysis, like all of us people that are into true crime, like pretty much everyone has watched Dexter.
Yes, but blood spatter analysis has been proven to be junk science, but we won't talk about that. But
not if Dexter does it, though, because he is an expert.
This medical examiner did not go to the scene of the crime, did not see where the body was placed, did not see the position she was sitting in, okay?
Slacker.
And neither did any investigators from that office, from the medical examiner's office. So during the examination of the body, he noted that the injuries affected very critical areas, okay? There were areas that were affected, including her aortic arch, which is like right above her heart, her left lung, and her cervical spine, because I said she was stabbed in the back of the neck.
Spinal.
And we know now, your spine is separated into 3 parts: the cervical, the thoracic, and the lumbar.
Which I do not know.
You did know that because your injury is in the thoracic spine. So this injury was in the cervical spine. Years later, the family ended up calling this place called BioMX, and they took pictures of her body and they created 3D images of the knives placed into where the injuries are so that you could see how deep some of the puncture wounds were. Some of them are just superficial and some of them went really deep. So I have pictures that I'm going to show you of the different puncture wounds with a knife sticking in it so you can see how far it went. There was also a giant gash in her skull, okay, in her head that went really deep because someone or herself stabbed herself or someone stabbed her in the head, and the gash is pretty large and it went deep as well. So let me show you these pictures.
Stabbing in the head isn't as easy as people say. Like, it's a skull and it would take a ridiculous amount of strength to do it. Like in movies, it goes through like butter.
Yeah.
But it doesn't really work like that. And like they would like in a movie, a monster will stab you in the head, pull it out, stab someone else in the head. But then from what things that I've seen, like it gets stuck.
Yes.
Like it just doesn't work as easy.
Okay, so I'm going to show you pictures and I'm going to post. Well, first of all, I don't know if I can post these pictures on Instagram. But one of my main sources, the 15-part YouTube series that I watched, is a guy named Gavin Fish. Gavin has done a 15-part series, and he also, on his website, he FOIA requested the Philadelphia Police Department. So he has all the documents. He has all the pictures on his website. You can go to gavinfish.com, look up her specific case, and he has everything on there. So if you end up finding this case fascinating and you want to deep dive it, definitely watch his series and then go to his website, and he has everything. But these are the pictures that he got and that the family got made.
I don't know if I want to see it.
So that you can see the amount of stab wounds. And as you scroll down, you can see how deep. If you zoom in, you can really see how deep some of them went, like the one in her cervical spine.
Yeah, this is wild.
Yes.
No one can stab themselves in the back of the neck like the letter M one. Like in your head, in the bottom of your skull.
It's the base of her skull, exactly.
That's impossible. Unless like you fell on it or something, but once you do that, aren't you dead? Like you stab yourself in the skull and the brain? It's in her brain.
Well, that's a very interesting point you bring up. So
this makes me uncomfortable.
It's hard to look at. It's really hard to look at. Interesting that you say that because there was, in addition to the medical examiner that performed the autopsy, initially they ruled it a homicide, but then when they ruled it a suicide, they brought in all these other forensic experts. The family did, the parents, because the parents were so upset by this. And multiple experts have said that, and it was reported in the autopsy report as well, that there are numerous wounds out of the 20. There are numerous wounds that did not hemorrhage. So when you look at the crime scene photos,
So like pump fakes, like you're trying, but you didn't really go through with it.
no, they didn't hemorrhage, which means they didn't bleed at the site. When you look at the crime scene photos, it's not as bloody of a scene that you would expect with 20 stab wounds. Like the crime scene photos show some blood, but there's not as much as you would think. There's really not blood everywhere, like he said.
You would think it's a whole, whatever room she's in is covered
It's
with.
covered, but
I have
it
a question.
wasn't.
So I was told when someone gets stabbed with an ice pick, they bleed internally. So would it be like a little puncture wound makes you bleed inside?
So it could make you bleed internally,
Instead of
yes.
it like pouring out.
Yes, but some of these wounds would have hemorrhaged and you would have bled out unless they happened post-mortem. Because when you don't have a pulse, you don't have blood pumping through your vessels, which means you wouldn't have hemorrhaged. So there's only two things that could have happened here. Either during the autopsy, the blood was washed away, and then the medical examiner didn't, he washed the blood away and then didn't explain where the blood went. Like it was washed away with inside of her body. Like it was an internal bleeding and he didn't note it, which doesn't usually happen. Or the stabbings happened post-mortem, so they didn't bleed. So that was
I'm nodding my head for people that aren't here.
So that's
I'm supposed to talk because like people can't see me nodding my head, but I'm like that's me nodding my head thinking like.
So that's a big
makes sense.
part of this case is, okay, and another big part of these injuries, which I want to point out, one of them happened at the C5, C6 level, and a neuropathologist who specializes in spinal cords and and neurology, she came in and consulted on this, but she didn't write an actual report and the city didn't actually pay her. It was kind of like a phone call, like, hey, can you look at this for me and let me know what you think? And when she saw it, she said that injury would have rendered her paralyzed.
So she couldn't have done anything else to herself again because at the C level, it impacts your arms.
Exactly. You were paralyzed from the neck down.
Yeah, because that's the neck down.
And
like mine's a T.
Yes, yours is T10, so yours is waist down. So if that's the case, and they also determined that C injury was not the one that killed her. What killed her was the one in the heart.
So someone stabbed her after.
So they believe that, well, her parents believe she was probably paralyzed by the stabbing to the back of the neck, and then the final blow was to her heart, which killed her.
But who locked the door from the inside?
Exactly. These are all the questions that pop up.
But did someone verify that the door was locked from the inside? No, because he went downstairs and asked security guard. Security guard didn't go up there and look.
Mm-hmm.
So how does anyone know that the door was locked from the inside?
Exactly. These are the questions that pop up in this case.
But I don't want all these questions. I just want answers.
There are no answers. So we're going to keep talking and keep talking through questions.
Sway has the answers.
So now we're going to talk about the police report. Okay, so Sam Goldberg, he called 911. We haven't gotten to that 911 call yet, but that'll be an interesting conversation as well. So the detectives arrive on the scene, and Ellen's body was found on the hardwood kitchen floor, just inside of the door entrance in the L-shaped kitchen, okay? Like I said, she was leaning against the cabinets in the corner. Her feet were out in front of her. Her arms were on either side of her body. She was wearing a zip-up hoodie, sweatpants, Ugg boots, and she had a knife through her chest, and it was protruding out of her chest.
So I have a question.
Because he didn't touch it.
So the knife in her chest, was that the same knife that stabbed her all those other times?
Yes, it was determined to be the murder weapon.
Okay.
So that's what she was wearing They also saw a pair of eyeglasses, which were hers, to the right of her body on the floor. She had a hair tie scrunchie on her right wrist, and then she had a white towel grasped in her left hand that had no blood on it. Interesting. You would think if someone is getting stabbed and there is blood at the scene, it's not as bloody as I told you. Like I told you, it wasn't as bloody as you would think because she didn't hemorrhage on all of them. But you would think that there would be blood on a white towel that was in her hand, but it wasn't. It was completely clean. There were no personal effects on the body. The knife through her chest hit her heart. And you have to think about the amount of force it takes. Her liver was punctured, her lung was punctured, her heart was punctured, but that is a rib cage surrounding it. So the amount of force that you have to push, I mean, that's a lot of force to do to yourself continually.
Yeah.
There were no defense injuries on the hands, according to the police report, or wrists or forearms. Okay, so you don't see any scratches, you don't see any type of defensive wounds. The blood around her was generally confined to the area of the body on the floor underneath of her. Okay, there was one drop of blood on the face of the cabinets, and there were 2 separate drops of blood spatter on the granite countertops. Just 2 separate drops of blood. So what this tells me...
Was it her blood?
Yeah.
Was there anyone else?
We're assuming, because we're going to get to... Nothing was tested in this case, but we're going to get to that too.
Oh, nothing. Well, what were they doing?
So you have to think, if there's 2 drops of blood only on the countertop, and there's blood underneath of her, she had to, or whoever stabbed her, had to do it once she was on the ground. Because if you're stabbed standing up, there's going to be a lot more blood spatter on the countertops, or it's going to maybe fly a little bit farther.
I can't believe that it's called blood spatter instead of blood splatter.
Okay. Do you understand what I'm saying, though?
I do.
It's not...
But I have a lot of thought.
It's not, flying everywhere.
No, there'd be a mess.
It wasn't on the counter.
Because as she's falling, she would have grabbed the counter or something, so it's coming off as she was stabbed while she was on the floor.
Yes. That's what this is showing. There were 2 kitchen knives in the sink adjacent to the body. They had no blood or any tissue on them. They were clean knives. The sink underneath is dry. There's no evidence of blood in the sink. The knife block that had all the knives in it on the counter was knocked over on its side. And then, they started looking through the rest of the house, and they looked in her bedroom. Inside of one of her bedroom drawers, there was prescription drugs, which had the 2 medications that we talked about. They also saw that the doctor that prescribed it was Dr. Ellen Berman, her psychiatrist, so they spoke to her as well. Mr. Goldberg told the officers who responded to the 911 call that, he went to the gym around 4:45, spent like a half hour there.
Was it verified?
Well, he is seen on the footage, yes. He's seen on the camera footage. And approximately 45 minutes later, he said he returned to the 6th floor. The door was locked. The latch was locked. And he explained that he went back down to the lobby.
Does the camera show, like, I'm assuming this, since it's a nice building, lofts and shit, this camera is probably in the hallway. Does it show him trying to get in the door and it's locked?
There isn't cameras in the hallway, like, showing the door of their apartment.
All right, so we're taking his word.
That we know of. Okay, there's only been certain footage released and to the family and for public view. And the ones that have been released are only from the times of 3 p.m. and 7 p.m. And it doesn't show their door. It just shows the hallway, the elevator, the gym.
Probably like the entry and exit ways, I'd assume.
Exactly. So then he says he goes back down to the lobby. He asks Philip Hanton, who was the security guard, can you come up and help me get inside the door? And initially in the police report, he tells the police that Philip Hanton came up with him and he got into the apartment and the man was there. But when the police interviewed the security guard, he said, absolutely not. I was not there with him. But Sam Goldberg told the police that he was there with him, helping him get into his apartment. Okay, which is weird. Why do you lie about that?
Did maybe the cops misunderstand and jumble up the story?
Good point. Yes, that is a big possibility. They're writing notes on their notepad. This is happening really fast.
They're not emotionally involved.
They're writing these notes. It's not like they're recording what he's saying. They're just writing it down, jotting notes down. It could have been they could have misread, or it could have been something that they accidentally wrote or, misinterpreted. So Sam Goldberg stated that he called 911, and then in accordance with the operator's instructions, he lifted the victim's slouched head in order to perform CPR. And then at that moment is when he saw the knife lodged in her chest. Medics arrived and pronounced the victim dead at 6:40 p.m. So like I said, in a written declaration, Mr. Hanton stated that he did not accompany Mr. Goldberg to 6th floor the night in question, and he did not present Mr. Goldberg. He was not present when Mr. Goldberg entered the apartment, right? So that's the police report. Like what I just told you, I gave you little snippets from the actual police report on the night of.
Yeah.
So originally, Dr. Osborne, who was the medical examiner, he concluded it was a homicide and then had this secret meeting with 2 Philadelphia PD officers, the DA, his boss, the chief medical examiner, and himself. And at the meeting, we don't know what was said, but the manner of death was changed to suicide after that meeting. Now,
how do they explain all the other stabbings, though? Do they think that someone can stab themselves 20 times?
So when you actually try to reenact this stabbing, right? You look at all the parts that I'm a flexible girl. So Ellen was 5'7", 136 pounds, right? I'm 5'7", I'm a little more than 136 pounds, but not much more. And my arms...
She hasn't been doing the Peloton that much lately, folks.
My arms are pretty long. And flexibility-wise, I'm a pretty flexible person, right? So when you think I have a knife, my arms are long enough to reach that part of my body. But you have to think about the amount of force needed to stab yourself and in the neck and head and the base of your skull.
That back
in this angle, I'm sitting here trying to do it.
It's like so if you reach your neck, it's in your spine where your spine meets your skull almost, or right into the bone of your skull. You're not even strong enough to do that. You don't have the leverage.
If you're doing it, you would think that her hand would have slipped onto the blade. Right?
Or the knife would be facing down because, it's hard to hold it up and stab up. You'd be more down.
Yeah, you'd be stabbing in a more downward motion, but it wasn't. It was going straight in. So you really and in order to use that amount of force, her hand would have slipped off of the handle probably and slipped onto the blade. So there were no evidence of that.
So where are we going next?
So now I want to talk about this 911 call, okay? And then we're going to talk about the text messages.
I don't ever put anything into 911 calls, but everyone else does.
Here's my thing about the 911 call. I completely agree with you that the 911 call, we can't sit here and analyze what he says too much. However, the things I found weird, right? So I want you for a second to try to put yourself in his shoes if he's telling the truth. And he walks in and he sees... you see me slumped on the kitchen floor. Let's give him the benefit of the doubt, right? He didn't see the knife protruding from her chest at first because her head is slumped over. Her shoulders are slumped over. It's sticking out here, but maybe he didn't see it. All right, we'll just say that.
So they thought she was laying on her chest and
no,
she was laying face down.
No one thought that.
Well, I thought he didn't see it until he maybe turned her over or something.
He didn't see it, apparently, until he lifted her head to try to attempt to do CPR and get her flat on the floor.
Doesn't make any sense. Was she laying flat on her back or maybe on her side?
No, she was against the cabinets like this.
Like sitting down, kind of.
Yes, with her feet out in front of her against the cabinet.
So the knife is obviously there.
So, yes, the knife is obviously there, but let's give him the benefit of the doubt, right? And let's say he didn't see the knife and he was actually surprised, like he tried to sound in the 911 call, that he was surprised when he saw the knife.
We're assuming he tried to sound surprised.
Yes.
Trying.
I'm assuming he tried to sound surprised.
Yeah, trying is the major key word, what you're saying.
But my thing is, when the operator said, I can teach you how to do CPR. She said, do you know how to do CPR? He said, no. She goes, okay, I can instruct you on how to do CPR. Are you going to try?
It's like, I guess, or something.
He said, I guess I have to, right? Like that.
I know. You just...
Come on, Russ.
I know.
I guess I have to, right?
It did sound bad. It did.
I guess I have to, right? That struck me. Other stuff I can get past, okay? I can get past not crying. That one hit me hard. I guess I got to, right?
It did sound bad. And then I was trying to think just... how would someone react? 'Cause like I said, I've been stone cold face. Like, I lose all emotions when people pass away.
Yeah.
But that one, I was like, what? I
But
guess I have to.
your...
Was he trying to sound funny?
In that
like
moment?
Sarcastic? No, that's wrong. Like, I'm just saying, like, I don't know how that happened.
You have to imagine, like, this is his fiance that he's about to marry. This is supposed to be the love of his life. This is the woman that he wants to spend his life with. And he just said... I guess I have to, right?
Does he have life insurance on her?
No.
All right, there goes that one.
So, that one hit me in the 911 call. The other thing that hit me was the fact that he got very descriptive. And this is a little bit of like a reach, because some people might say, oh yeah, he got really descriptive because he was trying to explain the situation. But if you are going on the angle of maybe he's trying to cover up a murder by switching the narrative and pointing everything into a suicidal direction, then he was so specific. Instead of saying on the 911 call, hey, I just walked in and something's wrong with my fiance. She's on the ground. There's blood everywhere. And kind of kept it at that. Instead, he's talked about, I went downstairs. I went to the gym. It was latched. I came back up. I couldn't get in. I tried to, like, he created a timeline on the phone call.
He did. But is he stupid enough to try to say someone can stab themselves 20 times in their bones?
I mean, maybe.
But you know what?
If he is stupid enough, it might have worked because her manner of death was classified as suicide.
You know what? From doing this podcast for a long time, people never cease to amaze me how stupid they are.
Yeah.
And then how stupid the other people are to believe the stupidity coming from the original stupid person.
Mm-hmm.
That's a full stupid circle.
It is.
Hashtag full stupid circle.
So the 911 call, we don't have to talk about if he sounded emotional enough or not emotional. The fact that he said, I guess I got to, right, hit me hard. I was like, that's crazy.
Like he was going to work.
Yeah, that's crazy. I get it. You don't want to get blood on you or whatever. Like, some people are skeeved by that. This is the love of your life. Are you joking?
It's like when Jess asked me to go hang out with people and there's going to be 40 people there. And I'm like, I guess I can go.
Yeah, exactly.
Like it's, I don't really want to, but all right, I'll fucking go and I'll tell everyone what I'm thankful for.
Shut up.
Like, I'm telling everyone, that's the Thanksgiving we're going to.
And everyone at Thanksgiving listens to this.
It's just
and they're all going to hear you say that.
Too many fucking people.
So, okay, the 911 call, that's my biggest issue with it when you listen to it. Now, the text messages, you made a really good point in the beginning when we talked about the text messages that originally, you said initially you'd be pissed. You'd be like, come on, like, what the fuck, right?
Like, I would be reacting like, open the fucking door, like, but I would have kicked the door open much faster and I would have been like, now we got to fix it, dumbass.
Well, he started off more chill and got more pissed as it went on. He didn't start off annoyed and then get worried. He started off okay and then got pissed.
Yeah, like I probably would have. And once I'm banging on the door making all kind of noises, after like a minute, I'm going to start like panicking my brain. I'm just going to blast the door open.
Well, he knocked on the door, yelled her name, Ellie, Ellie, Ellie. Then he said, hello, open the door. What are you doing? I'm getting pissed. Hello. And now, at this point...
How long has that been, though,
I mean, they were probably back-to-back over the course of a few minutes. But then at this point, you would think, after you said, I'm getting pissed, hello, then it's like, all right, then you would think I would start to get worried at that point. Like, I would say I'm getting pissed, and I'd be like, hello? And I wouldn't stay pissed then. At that point, I would start to get like, oh my God, what's going on? But he said, you better have an excuse. What the fuck? Ugh. You have no idea. What does you have no idea mean?
Probably you have no idea how annoying this is or something. And because it's locked from the inside, but no one can verify that. But you said it just looked like the screws were loose. It didn't look like they were ripped out.
Exactly. I can show you a picture of what the door looked like if you want to see it.
Because if they were ripped out, the screws, if you tried to put them back in, you wouldn't be able to screw them back in. They would just fit in the hole. Like you'd be able to put them in and put them out without screwing.
I'm going to show you what the door looked like. And
I'm a screwologist.
And you can tell me if you think it looks like someone, if this was actually latched, you can tell me if it looks like someone busted in. Okay?
I don't know. I don't know if I'm able to do that.
No, I'm going to show you the door and we'll see what you think.
You have to see if the screws can just go in the hole again or if they just fell out. No, that's broken.
Yeah, but does it look like someone busted it in?
It does.
To you?
Yeah, because...
You don't think it would have more damage than that?
Nah, that's busted. That kicked
busted from the outside.
Yeah, the weakest part of the door broke. The weakest part of all the screws broke, and that flipped in, and it looks like that allowed the door to be open.
Okay.
Because the door is broken, it doesn't look like the screws were unscrewed. You see how the door's broken?
No, it's definitely broken. I just thought that if he actually busted in the door, it would have more damage than that.
But you've also never installed a lock on a door.
No, I haven't.
And I have. And, so that looks like it flipped over, and that allowed the door to probably open. So it does look kicked open. He could have done that before.
Yeah.
And, you got to explore every possibility, but then we go in circles all the time.
So now there's two details that I haven't told you yet that are pretty important. Prior to calling 911, Sam made 2 phone calls.
Okay.
Russ is eating Reese's, by the way.
This is the first time I ever ate on the podcast.
I know. They're all going to hear you chew. It's going to be so gross.
I already ate one, and there wasn't one chew noise.
No, there probably was. We haven't listened back to it yet.
No, I guarantee it, because I'm a silent chewer.
One thing that I haven't told you is that there were 2 calls, one of them that he made and one of them that he received prior to calling 911. He called his cousin, Kamian Schwartzman, and then he received a phone call from his cousin's father, his uncle, James Schwartzman. His uncle is a very prominent judge in Philadelphia.
Well, they are Jewish, and Jewish people do have a lot of powerful positions.
Well, he's a prominent judge in Philadelphia, and he spoke to him prior to entering the apartment. So
maybe
here's my question.
You're trying to say, did he tell him what to say?
No, my question is, why did he call them if he just thought, he's getting pissed? He's like, why is the door locked? Why is she? If he didn't automatically think a crime occurred or something's going on, why would he call them prior to getting into the apartment? That's my question. Like, what is your reason for calling them while you go upstairs, you see that the door is locked, you try to get in, you go back down to the security guard, you ask him to come up and help you get in the door. He says no. Then you make these 2 apparent phone calls, one to your cousin, and then your uncle calls you, and you speak to them on the phone. And then you get in the apartment, and then you call 911.
Well, I have a good point here.
What?
So, maybe the door really was locked from the inside because he asked the security guard to go up with him. And if the security guard went up with him to help him, the security guard would have saw the door was locked.
True. That's a good point.
So he wasn't trying to hide it. He didn't know the security guard wouldn't go up with him. You would think he would. But and I would, because we lived like in a fancy building for a little a minute after I got hurt,
Mhm.
and we would have assumed that they would have came up there with us because they know where we live. Like, they could just look it up. Like, oh, he lives right there.
I think that having the security guard there would have been way better for his case if he actually murdered her and tried to pretend it was a suicide.
Yeah, but he asked security guard to go up. He didn't know security guard wouldn't go with him. That's my thing. Like, if you,
I agree with
how
you.
would you know? So, what if security guard went up?
Then that would be perfect, because then he could bust in and he could pretend that she committed suicide, and he had a witness with him to see it.
But that door could only be locked from the inside. And if the door's locked from the inside and the security guard has to kick it open and it's securely closed, it would have showed that there's no way that he could have locked it.
My question is, can you lock a latch lock from the outside by putting like a stick or something in there, grabbing the latch and pulling it over as you shut the door?
Listen, you live on TikTok, not me, so you could go figure that out.
Yeah, I'm curious about that.
I mean, anything could be done, but I don't know.
So yeah, these phone calls are weird. Why did he call his uncle, who is a prominent judge? Another weird thing that happened, right, is after this crime occurred, the police came, they called it a suicide. They called it a homicide initially. They then allowed, James Schwartzman, the judge, called the property manager the next day while they were planning funeral arrangements and said, "Can I go into the apartment and grab a few things for my nephew and for Ellen for the funeral?" The property manager, doing the right thing, called the police and said, "Hey, this guy wants to enter this apartment. Like, is that okay?" She did the right thing. Yeah, he can go in. So boom, gets contaminated. He goes in. What does he take? Cell phones, but not just cell phones. He takes Ellen's cell phone. He takes Sam's laptop. He takes Ellen's laptop. Why did he take the electronics? Then the property manager calls back the police because now she's like, it's been a couple days and the funeral happened. And now she's like, all right, I got to get this place like rented.
Mm-hmm.
Like, what am I going to do? Right?
Because our job is to keep the place running and making money.
So she calls them and said, hey, are we going to be able to clean this place up? Like, what's happening? What's happening with the investigation? Oh, yeah, it's a suicide. And so she's like, okay, so, do you have a cleanup crew? They're like, we can refer you to a crime scene cleanup crew. So then literally that week, they come, they clean the entire place up. All the blood, all the evidence, everything gone. This was just a homicide. As soon as they changed it to suicide, it gets cleaned up. Everything's gone. And they allow the uncle, James, to come in and grab the electronics. They didn't investigate this crime at all.
Once it's considered suicide, it isn't weird for it to get cleaned up immediately because this is a place of business and they need to get it rented out.
My point is that the police department did not even for a second investigate this as a crime when it was considered a homicide. They just had a meeting with the medical examiner, had it changed to a suicide, and then cleaned it up. They didn't collect evidence. Like, this all should have been collected on the first day.
Are we thinking this is because he's related to a judge?
I think that's a huge possibility in this.
Like, I don't know how much influence a judge would have with a regular precinct.
I think they would have a big influence.
I didn't know. I thought you just see him when you go to court or something.
And
I don't know.
I think allowing him to go in and get the electronics, like the laptops and the cell phones, is weird. The police completely dropped the ball on this investigation.
Well, a lot of people...
It was a homicide.
A lot of people are police just for a job. They might not care that much, I guess.
But this is a homicide. You're not allowed to let people into a homicide crime scene.
But wait, I thought after they turned into a suicide is when...
They cleaned the
homie
apartment.
went in.
No, he went in when it was a homicide.
Oh.
That's weird.
I guess if you were trying to hide something, that would be some stuff you grab.
Another thing that I will say, they said that they didn't see any search history of Ellen looking up anything about suicide, like in the days prior to this happening. However, when they looked back months before, there were a couple weird searches.
About suicide?
This was, yes, but this was months prior to this. So, you know, there is two things you can say about that. Like, she looked up like a painless way to commit suicide, I think, and then she ended up on a website, like a Christian website about suicide. I don't know, but
a knife ain't a painless way.
Exactly. She did have that search history. It was there. And I will say, you know, I'm not completely saying that this 100% was not a suicide.
I look up a lot of weird shit.
Yeah, you do, and I look up weird shit.
No, you don't know unless you're looking through my history, you sneak.
I look up weird shit too, especially for all the cases that I cover. I look up super weird shit. So, but here's the thing, you know, she was struggling really bad with anxiety to the point that it was distressing to her. Could she have had suicidal thoughts in the past? Maybe. Could on the day of this crime, she have had an intrusive thought? Have you ever had an intrusive thought before? Have you ever heard of intrusive thoughts?
Now I did.
Have you ever, and this is a weird thing to admit, so like you don't have to if you're embarrassed, but have you ever thought to yourself, like, what would happen if I just took that knife and slit my throat? Or like, what would happen if I just swallowed all those pills? Or like, what would happen if I just did such and such? Those are intrusive thoughts, like weird thoughts that you don't think of on a regular basis that just pop in your head, and they're like kind of scary to even admit that you thought it out loud.
Well,
people have intrusive thoughts. It's something that a lot of people have dealt with in the past.
I've had thoughts where like someone's talking and I don't want to hear them talk, and I'm like, I should just punch them in the face right now.
Okay, well, yours are violent. I'm talking about self-inflicted.
No, I
You have never had a thought like that?
No.
Okay.
Well, I don't know. I listen, that ain't for these people on the internet to get in my brain like that.
So some people think that maybe it's clear she wasn't planning this suicide. She was chopping fruit. Okay, so clearly she had fruit out. She was chopping fruit. It's clear that this wasn't like a planned thing, right? Prior to this, she was looking up wedding stuff on her laptop. Then she got up and started making a fruit salad. Like, clearly it wasn't like, I'm going to commit suicide tomorrow and planned it all out. So some people say because it happened, if she did commit suicide, it was an intrusive thought and it was a spontaneous suicide, which has happened. People have had spontaneous suicides where they don't plan it, they just do it. And it's really weird. But when you put everything together in this case, right, you put the amount of stab wounds that she had, the fact that it hit her cervical spine and the base of her skull and could have rendered her paralyzed, the fact that the blood wasn't hemorrhaging everywhere because possibly some of this was done post-mortem and you can't stab yourself when you're dead, okay? The fact that the angle at which the stab wounds happened on the back of her neck is almost physically improbable. I'm not going to say it's impossible, but it's improbable that you could use enough force and get it on those angles. The fact that she was planning this wedding, that she told her family that the meds were working, that she didn't show any indications of being suicidal. The fact that he made this 911 call and he said, I guess I have to, right? When they said, do you want to do CPR? The fact that he made 2 phone calls to his cousin and a prominent judge who is his uncle prior to calling 911. The fact that he had his uncle come to the apartment when it was a crime scene and pick up things that have evidence in them.
And it's hard to probably put it on him besides, well, because his DNA is all over the house, obviously. Anything in the house has his DNA on it.
Well, they've never tested the knife for fingerprints. Fingerprints has never been tested on that knife.
It can't be that hard to test. Just try it.
Well,
right?
they haven't done it. They also, so I'm going to talk about the updates in the case now, okay? Because we've gone through like the entire case. Parents obviously believe that this was a murder. Her parents, like without a shadow of a doubt, they believe this was a murder. And I think they believe that Sam did it.
We would all feel that way.
There's a balcony and there was snow on the balcony and none of the snow was disturbed. So no one came in through the balcony or a window. Okay. So they think Sam committed this.
That means also no one got out through the balcony or the window.
Yeah. No one got out.
if we're going with the locked from the inside theory,
Yeah.
that means that no one left. Because someone could have came in.
Mm-hmm.
It was about how did someone get out.
Absolutely. But how do we actually know that it was truly locked from the inside if no one saw it but Sam? We're going based on what he said.
By someone kicking it in. But he could have preemptively kicked it in, but was he assuming that the guy downstairs wouldn't go help him and see that it was already open?
He could have been assuming that. He could have. So, the parents, they've had multiple lawsuits. And in 2021, Ellen's parents, they hired the BioMX consulting firm. That's the one where I showed you that they made the computer models of the pictures you looked at of all the wounds from her body.
Mm-hmm.
And they looked at it. This is an independent company, right, who looked at this case, and their job was to see, is it mechanically, physically possible to inflict these particular wounds on yourself? And their conclusion is that the angle of these stabbings it's not biomechanically probable that you can do that to yourself.
I kind of agree with that.
The parents sued the medical examiner's office in 2021 because they want the manner of death changed. And they don't even need it to be changed to homicide. They just want it not suicide.
To be open.
It either needs to be undetermined or homicide. But they would be satisfied with undetermined. They lost this court case in a split decision based on the way the law is written. Okay, so there were 3 judges on this case. 2 of them voted against it. 1 of them voted for it. But they wrote 30 pages of why this is a miscarriage of justice, but they couldn't do it because the law is written a particular way and it would violate the way the law is written. Because judges only look at how a law is written.
As they should, though. They shouldn't be allowed to make laws up.
But they pretty much agreed with the parents and then still ruled against them. So they weren't allowed to get the manner of death changed, okay? So then they appealed to the state Supreme Court. In 2023, Greenberg v. Giuliano, right?
So the name isn't Greenberg v.
Greenberg v. Giuliano.
It's Greenberg versus
Giuliano. So Giuliano is the chief medical examiner. So they have now said, the Greenbergs last year in 2023 have now said they are alleging that there is a conspiracy to cover up a murder. They believe that their daughter's murder has now been conspired to be covered up by the Philadelphia Police Department, the district attorney's office, and the medical examiner's office. The parents' attorneys were seeking the full police discovery. So the parents' attorneys have not been allowed to see the full police discovery, which includes all the surveillance footage, which includes all the interviews conducted with everybody. And the Philadelphia police are fighting and saying that it's not warranted, that they shouldn't be allowed to have it.
Why does the Philadelphia police even care?
That's what they're saying. If this isn't a conspiracy, why do you care? Why can't we have it?
Just take it. I don't give a shit.
So Joe Piazza is their attorney, and what he wants is the complete video footage from the entire day. All they've been given is from 3 to 7 p.m. And he believes there is critical footage based on his investigation. There's critical things that happen after 7 p.m. and he needs to see the footage and they won't give it to him. He also wants access to the knife because he wants to conduct his own forensic testing on the knife, fingerprints and DNA and all that. Because fingerprinting has never been done on the knife. And he wants all the communications that happen between the Philadelphia PD, the DA, and the medical examiner in that secret meeting. So he wants to know, what did you talk about in the secret meeting? This is all the things that the parents said in their court case last year.
Now, do they have footage of all that stuff, or is he just assuming they do?
He's assuming they do, but they also admitted to having it.
Oh, okay. So when he says footage, he means the footage of the whole building that day?
Yeah, he wants all the camera footage of all the cameras from that day, the whole entire day. All he has is from 3 to 7 p.m. because that's all they would release.
Why wouldn't they just give it to people? Because if it can help solve a case, that doesn't make sense.
So they claimed in this court case that it's an open investigation, and so none of this can be turned over because the investigation is open. And the parents said, it's not open because you're not investigating it. You've called it a suicide. How can you say this is an open investigation and then simultaneously have her manner of death be classified as suicide? That makes no sense.
Yeah.
So the judge sided with the Greenbergs, but they kind of put the court case in recess, and the judge said, hey, you guys go get all the stuff together that they want. So she ruled with them and said, go get all the stuff they want together and give them the police discovery a month later. So then in November of 2023, they all come back, and now they claim they can't turn all the stuff over because a different police department has now taken the case. And since this different county police department has taken the case, it's not their job to turn it over to the parents.
Yeah, but doesn't the judge have the final say and power over this?
Because the Philadelphia Police Department turned it over to a different county, now the judge can't say they have to turn it over because now it is considered an open investigation.
I wonder if, I heard from the police side, they're actually trying to solve the case and maybe, we don't want to put any of the information out there.
They're not trying to solve it. It's been since 2011. It's 2024. They haven't done anything to solve this case. But the case was then turned over to Chester County District Attorney's Office. And they apparently conducted their own investigation into her case. And as of November 8th of 2024 of this year, they have now concluded, according to CBS News, that they can't prove beyond a reasonable doubt that a crime was committed. So where the case stands now is the parents still believe it was a murder. The parents still have not had access to all the evidence until the police discovery. This other district attorney's office determined that they can't prove without a reasonable doubt that it was a murder.
But aren't they in the same situation that they can't prove beyond a reasonable doubt that it wasn't a suicide?
Yeah, they can't prove it either way, but they refuse for some reason to change the manner of death to undetermined. And I don't get it.
Why are they so insistent on that?
That's what everybody wants to know. And that's where this case stands today. I mean, it's still unsolved, and there are a lot of people, when you go down these rabbit holes of this case, that can justify it being a suicide in certain ways. But typically when I read those opinions, I'm like, I can get past every single thing. What I can't get past is the science, is the biology, right? Physically, is it possible to injure yourself in that way? And if you hit your spinal cord with a knife and you're paralyzed, you can't continue stabbing yourself. Or if you are dead, you can't stab yourself, because if she had blood flowing through her vessels, some of those puncture wounds would have hemorrhaged, and they didn't. That's the stuff I can't get past. You can get past all the circumstantial, how did he act, what did he say, blah, 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 blah. But at the end of the day, the science, to me, shows that this was a homicide.
I just wonder why the police department is being so possessive over the evidence if they're not investigating it anymore.
I think it's because the police department made horrible mistakes. Like, imagine they rule it a homicide, and then you allow this judge, you allow a family member to walk through the scene. You release the crime scene. You didn't test for fingerprints. You allowed somebody to walk in and take evidence.
Why won't they?
Like, it looks really bad on them. It makes them look bad.
Well, that's where a judge comes into play, and, you have to give all this up.
I don't know. They're playing this legal games.
That sucks.
So it's been 13 years, and her parents are still seeking justice for Ellen. You can go to change.org. Her case is there, and you can sign the petition. Gavin Fish, like I said, has this crazy, amazing website with all the details. You can watch his 15-part series. The Prosecutors podcast did a 5-part series. They cover this really well, and they go in super detail about everything if you're interested in deep diving this one. But it's a fascinating case, and it's so sad and also so like anger-inducing to me.
Yeah, when you're hiding evidence that could help
It makes no sense.
solve the case, it's frustrating. I'd want to choke people.
Yes. So the patrons voted for a Love Gone Wrong because I gave them a poll of like what kind of case they want to hear. So this one is like a possible Love Gone Wrong, but we don't know for sure.
Yeah, it's a possible. It's weird because normally when we put up the vote for a case on the Patreon, it's always a serial killer.
Love Gone Wrong got 51% of the votes, Serial Killer got 32%, and Missing Persons got 17%.
There was something I saw recently, someone that went missing like 50 years ago, and now he's found as a grown-up.
Yes, it was 70.
70, yeah, I just made
he's
up a
like,
number.
no, I mean, he's like 70.
Something like that. No, so he went missing even more than that, but now he was found as a grown-up.
Wow. So, yeah, I gave the patrons those choices. Serial Killer, Love Gone Wrong, Missing Persons. So this is like possibly a Love Gone Wrong.
Possibly.
But my opinion, personally, I think it's a Love Gone Wrong.
Well, in the words of
I think he murdered her.
Jenny from the block, my love don't cost a thing.
I really believe he did it. What do you think? Based on what I told you. You haven't looked into it that much, but I've given you a lot of details.
20 stabs means she didn't kill herself.
Do you think he did?
If the door was actually locked from the inside, he did not do it.
Who did it?
A ghost.
Like, who actually could have done it? He's the only one.
And no one left off the balcony, they said.
Yeah.
I mean, he is the only one. Man, I don't know.
It's the only one that could have done it. So, I don't know. We'll see. Anyway, well, this was a detailed, in-depth one.
Yeah. Did you see on wifeofcrime.com that they got all that fly merch?
I did.
You did? It makes that beer and wine shirt is
We gotta re-up some, we gotta put new designs up. We've had the same designs for a really long time.
We have some dope designs. We had the Vote for Us thing. We just got it like, I know the election is over, but we could prepare for 2028.
Yeah, we could start now.
We could start now. Like,
or people who don't like the results or didn't like either candidate, they can buy yours.
Listen, I just find it's weird when anyone loves a politician. Like, I understand you have a preference, but when people are in love,
yeah,
I'm like, you guys are weird, bruh.
Yeah, you find that weird. I get it. I mean,
yeah. Like, if you love your dog, then I'm like, I could see that. 'Cause your dog loves you.
So check us out on Instagram at Wife of Crime Pod. I'm interested to hear what you guys think of this case. I'm going to put up a post about it, and I want to hear your opinions. If you've never heard this case before and you find it super interesting, check out Gavin Fish's YouTube channel. He's definitely the most in-depth that I've seen about this one. And check us out on Patreon at Wife of Crime Pod and Facebook at Wife of Crime, the Crime Family. And
Instagram.
we will talk to you later. I already said it.
Oh, my bad.
I'll talk to you later. Let's go let poor Tython out of the cage. He's been in the cage this whole time. All right, bye.
Peace.